my name is Brandon, and welcome to Audio Addiction, where you can find the latest album reviews. You can find our band interviews, and you can find live video of the concerts that we get. We have some videos of Galactic Empire that will be going up maybe this weekend, maybe in the next couple of days, but that's what's coming up for that. I'll also try to make a video on launch conference and my overall things that I did, things that I enjoyed. So if you want to see that, definitely comment below. I will try to get that out as soon as possible as well. And then I have a few more album reviews to do this week, so definitely be expecting those over this weekend as well. So thank you guys for the positive response on the Eternity Forever's out EP review, and as well as the While She Sleeps interview review as well. Both of those are great records, so definitely go check those out. Totally different ends of the spectrum, but still awesome stuff. So if you enjoy what we do, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Also, make sure to hit that like button as well. It really does go a long way. So tonight, we're going to be talking about Vague Advice's new record, Time Traveler's Continent. So I would assume a lot of you haven't heard of this band. They are a band local to me in Philly. Dante actually hit me up on this cool music group called Hemisphere. Definitely, if you can join that, it's a great community to join. I think there's like over 5,000 members or something like that. It's on Facebook, so definitely if you just type in Hemisphere, it'll probably come up. It'll be like Hemisphere Music Movement. But I was able to get in contact with him through that, and he wanted me to check out this record. They kind of have an in-depth, comprehensive background to like lyrics and stuff on their Facebook page, which I will link in the description. So definitely go check that out if you are a big lyricist. I think this is probably one of the more in-depth records that I've had to review. You know me, typically I don't review the lyric side of it, but I do appreciate it. I think it's definitely an art, and just certain people know how to do it well, and I think these guys definitely do it extremely well. So if you're a very big lyricist, I would highly recommend checking out this record. It's really cool. Also, it's very like, I feel like it's a very approachable record. It's not like metalcore or anything crazy. I think it's very much, for me, an album that I could just put on and just jam out with. Like if I'm driving my car or if I go on like a long road trip, I feel like this would be a really awesome record to just listen to. So thank you, Dante, man. You are the best. Definitely check out his band. I'll leave, again, links in the description where you can find out about his band. So let me get into the track list. The first one is From the City Towards the Hills, or They Think, or Things as They Appear. These track lists are track list name, especially this one's a little bit long, but no problem with that. I don't have a problem with that. But I love the dual guitar intro. I think that always gets me. I'm a guitar player myself, so that's something that I always pick out. Also liking the vocal styling and just how unique the vocalist's tone is on this. I just feel like it's something that you don't typically hear, so I definitely enjoy that. Obviously it plays more to the side of indie music, but definitely really do enjoy that, considering that indie isn't something I do. Like indie music, I love indie rock, but it's something that I'm not like super into. So I definitely like the uniqueness of this guy's voice. I think it's something different and something cool that I feel like some of you might like. I also get some feelings of like math rock, and just in, like I've been mentioning, indie in general, but a lot of math rock, just maybe with like the time changes and just this just the overall switches and things, feels very math rocky. So I really enjoy that. I think instrumentally this track is very interesting. It just keeps you engaged, and that's what I enjoy about tracks, especially instrumentally wise. If they can keep me interested in listening to it, especially being a longer track, I definitely appreciate that, because it does. I feel like sometimes long tracks can either work or they just completely fail. So I feel like for this one, it definitely works in that regard. There's just nice spacing, so it's not too much, but there's also singing as well mixed throughout there, so you don't get lost or get bored. So really enjoy that. Also enjoying the addition of female vocals. I'm pretty sure it was female vocals that I heard, so I really enjoy that as well. I think it couples very well with their vocalist, and just the mishmash of the two very cuts very well together. And I would say that this song is pretty diverse, and it doesn't. I don't feel like it stagnates too much. That's what I was saying about it being very long. I like that it doesn't feel like it drags on and things of that nature. And I also think it's a great opener track, and I would consider this to be one of my favorites off the record. So we'll move into track number two, which is 22 Years Later, Feeling Better. I feel like this band kind of reminds me of a mishmash between Dry Jacket, who was on Hopeless, and Transit, rest in peace, Transit. One of my favorite bands as well, but has that sort of like indie kind of almost like indie progressive, if that makes sense. In that regard, so I really enjoy that. Liking the instrumental intro. I think just I love when bands kind of add that little flair to them. And definitely they're very talented in musical people, so definitely enjoy that. Also enjoy the bass, that the bass is kind of at the forefront of this track. I feel like you don't hear that too often, especially in, I would say it's more popular in like, non-metal affiliated music. So I really enjoy that. I think that was definitely a nice touch and something different for me personally. I also feel like the vocals kind of lack in certain parts where I felt like maybe I was like, oh, I'm listening to it, and I was waiting for the next vocal part, and there wasn't really another vocal part after that. It was mainly just instrumentals. So that kind of for me was a little bit off. I'm also a fan of instrumental music, so I don't have a problem with that. But for somebody who maybe likes just indie music, that might just be a little bit too far off for them. At least I think so. Um, so I feel like maybe if they incorporated a little bit more vocals into maybe like the latter half of the track, it would have been better. I also enjoy the kind of just build up towards the end, and then I also feel like they got a little bit more like, I would say, I guess the word would be aggressive. I feel like that's a little bit too brushed, but I feel like it definitely has this sort of hit and pull to it that I really enjoy about this track. I feel like just instrumentally it just hits harder. So I definitely feel like with maybe some vocals on there or something like that, I feel like it could have just hit that much harder. And probably would have been one of my favorites off the record as well. If maybe there was just a little bit more vocals in that part. So we'll move into the next track, which is the Things Themselves. This one is another one of my favorite tracks off the record. I feel like this track just has this immediate fullness to it when you listen to it. As soon as it kicks in, it just has this sort of just overarching fullness to it, which I really enjoy. I also enjoy the addition of piano here and there. You hear it a little bit here and there. I feel like it could have been turned up just maybe a little bit. But overall, I think it's a really nice touch. It kind of adds a different element to the track in general. Just with it being full and then adding the piano on top of that, I feel like that's really cool and just definitely something unique to this track in particular. Getting back to the vocals, really unique, definitely interesting. It caught my attention for sure. I listened to it a few times through, and it was definitely something every time when I was listening to the track was something that picked out for me. So really enjoyed that, and I also enjoy how it kind of starts off a little bit slower and then it kind of picks up towards the middle. I know most people wanted to just get started right away, but to me, I like when it kind of gradually builds, and so I felt like this one is just a perfect example of that. And just the overall combination of everything in this track instrumentally, I feel like it's very solid. So that is why I enjoyed this track. So we'll move it into track number four, which is Time Traveler's Continent. This one is another one of my favorite tracks off the record. I really like that the guitar and bass are doing the same guitar riff, or just riff in general, but maybe in like a different key. I don't think it's on a different key, it's just different intervals. But I think that's definitely a cool little touch that I picked out in the intro part of the track. Also has this sort of feelings of Transit again. One of my favorite bands, so that was something that I picked out. Just maybe just with the guitar parts, it feels very transity transit E. So really enjoy that. I felt like the pre-chorus of the track was just a little bit rough. I felt like the drums felt a little bit off. I don't know if that was done on purpose, but it just felt like just the transition felt a little rough to me. So I felt like that was kind of a little bit bad, but then once they got into the chorus, everything just kind of smoothed out. So I really enjoyed that. The last half of the track, I just felt like there should have been vocals on that part as well. It probably for I don't know how many minutes, but it's definitely at least like 2 minutes without vocals. And considering that the band kind of starts off the track with vocals, I feel like in some parts it needs it. I feel like it would just meld a little bit better for me if there was some vocal parts in there. So I feel like that was a little bit lacking in that part. But however, I felt like the first part of the track was just absolutely phenomenal. So that's why I really think it's one of my favorites. I think it's kind of on the fence, but I would consider it still to be one of my favorites. All right, so the next track, track number 5, is Feel, Piety, and Absent Father. I hope I pronunciated that right. I'm usually pretty bad with those things. But this one is another one of my favorites. It's kind of like I would say the black sheep off the record for sure. It's just pretty much bare bones acoustic, which I really enjoy. If you've been a fan of these album reviews, you know that I just love when bands do that sort of stripped back acoustic versions of the tracks. I wouldn't say this is necessarily acoustic track, but just I like the stripped down version of tracks in general. I think it definitely adds a nice change of pace to the record. Also liking the dual vocals as well. I feel like that kind of picks up towards the latter half of this record, which I really enjoy. I felt like they needed a little bit more of that. And what might have been even cool maybe for next record is to maybe like swap vocal parts, maybe like have somebody else do vocals. Whoever did vocals for like the backup vocal parts, maybe do vocals for the parts that I felt like were missing vocals. That would have been really cool. Um, Definitely loving the guitar riffs, rhythm, and lead respectively. Again, something that I always pick out and something that's kind of prominent to me is just guitar riffs and sort of lead stuff. I really enjoy that. I feel like the vocals are just really on point as well. Again, with the dual vocals, I think it just adds this layer of complexity to it, which I really enjoy. And again, I sort of like the stripped back feeling of it, and I felt like this was one of the more solid tracks off the record, without a doubt. So we'll move into the last track, track number 6, which is "But the Future Refused to Change." Probably my favorite track off the entire record, without a doubt. Period. I really like the cool guitar intro, the drum, cool guitar and drum intro. I think that's really solid. And I also love the overall ambience and the spacing of this track. I felt like to me they kind of asked. I mean, I guess they kind of did what I wanted them to do all along, which was still kind of keep that sort of ambience essence to what they do, but still have vocals, so it doesn't feel like there's so much a little bit of dead spots throughout the track. I feel like this one has just some great flow to it as well. And I just like the dual vocals as well. I think that's just a really nice feature. I think a lot of bands, do that, but I feel like they definitely nail it. So I would certainly like to see more of that in the foreseeable records. Also, instrumentation is on point as well on this track, and I think it's just a great way to overall end the record and kind of surmise just what this band is and how they sound. So to me, they feel like a mishmash between Dry Jackets, Transit, and maybe a little bit of like From Indian Lakes. So I really enjoy that. Something that I've been really wanting to get into is some really good indie bands. So there's a few that I have lined up, but definitely this one was a cool one to get on. So my pros and cons of this record, I feel like I've kind of already elaborated on them, but I'll say them again. I think some of the pros were that I feel like they really managed the overall ambience. It's because sometimes for me in some albums the ambience gets just a little bit too much, just out, like just crazy. I felt like they really honed it in very well, but it still has this sort of fullness, this sort of pull to it. So I really enjoyed that. Really loving the guitar work, just instrumentation wise, is really solid, and then vocally, it's very unique as well. So in that regard, those are some of the pros. Cons wise, I feel like some of the vocal parts, or they could have had lead parts, in some of the, I would quote unquote call dead space, on the tracks. I felt like they could have done a little bit of that, and then they would have just added that sort of layer that they were missing. I felt like some of the tracks just had this sort of dead space into it. I know it's kind of like a little bit more instrumental in that regard, but considering that they had vocals starting out for like most of the track, I felt like they could have added a little sprinkling here and there of like vocals and such. So to me, that's what kind of dropped it for me in some parts. But overall, I think it was a really solid record. So my overall rating for Vega Advice's new record uh, would be a 8.5 out of 10. I think it's a really solid effort from them, considering that I had never heard of them prior to this. But overall, sonically, I really enjoy what they do. I think it's definitely, again, up for the wheelhouses. Up for the wheelhouse. It's in the wheelhouses of bands for like Dry Jackets, Transit, from Indian Lakes. I feel like you'll definitely get something along those lines, if you like those bands. So let me know in the comments if you've heard of Vague Advice. Definitely go check out their stuff beforehand and let me know if you think my assessment's right. Do you think my assessment's wrong? Tell me why. I would certainly love to have a conversation about it. Thank you again to Dante, and thank you again to the Hemisphere. They always bless me with awesome bands. So definitely check out Vague Advice if you haven't. They are doing a release show tonight in Philly. So if you live in the PA area, definitely go check that one out too. So if you enjoy what we do, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Also, make sure to hit that like button as well. And we'll be having another interview posted a little bit, probably around the same time as this. So definitely be on the lookout for that. And if you enjoy us a lot, we have a merch store. I always leave a link in the description. So if you want to pick something up, that'd be greatly appreciated. And my name is Brandon, and we hope you got your fix, and we'll be talking with you soon. Deuces. Hey guys, hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching. Of course, if you enjoy what we do, make sure to go check out the other series we do. We do album reviews, we do band interviews, and we do live videos, so definitely go check that out. Hit that subscribe button. It really helps out our channel, helps us grow. Make sure to hit that like button as well. Go follow us on social media. That's all down below. We try to keep that as updated as possible. We also made a new website where we'll be posting photos of upcoming concerts and stuff like that, which you can go check out at audioaddictionmedia.com, and come get your fix with us, guys. Talk to you later. Deuces.